this last kaiju should be pretty recognizable, I think, to most people. It's a remodel for Mechagodzilla 2021, and well, this is something that I've personally wanted to do for a very long time, and I've talked about it a lot before. But with this character, the original model is certainly out of date. I feel it needed a remodel almost as much as Biollante or Destroya. And for this character, we really wanted to capture the sheer amount of detail that goes into that is on that character. And so I'm going to do a little turnaround and kind of show you some stuff here. This is fully in line with our performance requirements, so it shouldn't lag you in game. And then now I'll go into a little bit some of the finer details. So you can see a lot of this, but when you actually zoom in on a lot of areas, we've really filled it to the brim with as much detail as we possibly can. So for example, if I zoom in on the face, everything's modeled to an extreme level of detail. He has individual rivets covering his head, individual webbing. All the mechanical parts are here, and they do function, which is something quite cool to see. He's got these plates around his eyes, and the eyes are movable, so that's quite cool. And they sort of simulate some form of joint that would hold an eyeball in. He's got his grinders in his mouth, top and bottom. And as a small bit of artistic detail, I put some searchlights on him because I thought that was kind of a cool thing from Pacific Rim. One thing I would point out is, while this character has an immense amount of detail, he's actually should be more performant than the old MG21 model in the game. So if you can run the current Mechagodzilla model, you should be able to run this model. I know that's something we've gotten a lot of concern about in the past, but fortunately for everyone, we've been very careful about that, and it should all work out. I do have now we've got some custom materials set up that I'd like to show you for his rendering, which is something like this. This isn't perfectly accurate, but we're trying to capture a little bit of the worn metal look. And I think it does work with the red glow of the tail and all the spines. Now, something much more interesting about this character is not just the fact that he's got a very, very high level of detail. It's that all his detail is functional. So from a modeling perspective, we threw the kitchen sink at this model to make every single thing on him work. If you see a mechanical part on him, it does function. So I'll show some of that right now. Put him in some different poses here. So let's start. In the arms, for example, if I move his arm backwards, the panels on his arm move in correspondence to where muscles would actually move. So he's got this panel on the back of his arm that moves to replicate the movement and motion of a tricep. He has his elbow guard here that it protects his elbow, and it moves mechanically with the motion of the arm. On the front of the arm, he has two other working panels. He has this bicep panel that flexes like a bicep, and he's got this panel that is primarily for articulation. So one issue with Mechagodzilla is he's got these very large, almost shield-like panels covering his arms and legs, and it makes it difficult to pose him. So one of the things that I looked into very much was how he moves in the movie. And what we found is that at times he has these panels that shrink away in his elbows and knees, and that's something that we've tried to replicate here for additional functionality. Going on to the shoulders, we have in his underarm here, there is a working piston array that moves outwards with the rotation of the arm. So as the arm moves, the pistons move to compensate for its movement. And so that the pistons don't overextend, we've built in a part here that can move up and down or in and out as necessary. And this all should happen very seamlessly in game. We've taken a lot of care to make sure that happens. Additionally speaking, the gears, which are for some reason shaped like buzzsaws, I guess because he's extra mean. His gears are shaped like buzzsaws, but they do also move when he moves his arm. Another element about him is that you can, his pistons in his shoulder also move in and out as he moves his shoulder around. Additionally, it's very difficult to see, but it does kind of show you the lengths we've gone to. When he moves his shoulder, there's actually a shoulder guard underneath his rocket launchers that covers the movement of the pistons so that he is well protected. Now, next on to the I really like it when Mechagodzilla feels somewhat alive. So something I focused on was how do I make all of this move? I wanted to make him more posable, and I wanted to give him a sense that he was living and breathing, and perhaps even that he was angry. So something that happens in his chest is when you move his chest up, he's got this breathing motion of the panels in his breast. So the neck guard moves up to allow more motion. The breast panels move apart. Again, very much like you're extending your kind of around your sternum and your rib cage is flexing. And it's also limited so it can only work in a way that is mechanically possible, and it all runs extremely smoothly here. In his abdomen, this is a very tricky thing to do. We had to set up an accordion function where all these parts move in line as they do in the movie. This should give him a lot more flexibility in the animations and should really be quite interesting to see. Something else, though, that happens in the chest, and for this I'm going to have to move the arms out a little bit, for which you can see the pistons functioning in there, is he has these panels on the side that function to close the gaps when he rotates his upper body. So that's, as for the body articulation, that's what we've got there. In the legs, if we move down to the feet, should hide this, we have front and rear ankle guards that move to cover the motion of the foot, keep it protected in combat. We also have an automated knee pad that will cover his knees. And as he moves his knees up, these things, whatever they are, they will pump as he moves his knees to allow for more motion, and it really makes him more fluid as he moves. And last but not least level of detail is that the pistons in his hips all function individually to accommodate a very large range of motion. Additionally speaking, this portion in here slides in and out, so when pistons would become over-adjusted or overextended in real life, they can be adjusted so that they flex as desired. And this all provides a very, very smooth and linear motion for the legs. And then the last thing that I'd like to show for Mechagodzilla here is some of his weapons, because every Mechagodzilla needs that. So regarding his tail drill, it transforms from the regular tail, so that can be used. That's pretty cool. But much better than that is the ability to rocket dash, as he does in the movie. So we have full spine control. We also have control of even the internal sections of his rockets inside of him that can be open and closed as we please. And all of this functions while all the other mechanical functions are happening at once. So it's to an extremely high level of detail, and it should perform well in game, and I really can't wait for you guys to see it in game.
All right, then. Thank you, Jonathan. Everybody, again, show your appreciation to Jonathan and the sheer masterpiece he has produced right here. Here's another pose real quick of MG21, our upcoming model. Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for showing it off to us.
Glad to.
All right. With that, we will now be doing a little recap of everything that we've really gone over.